What's up, everybody? It's Flaw, aka Dushku the Shadow Priest, here again to teach you guys a lesson on how to make gold in WoW without doing anything. This is a low effort, high reward from what I've seen so far method of making gold in WoW TBC Classic, especially for people who raid log or who don't have a lot of time to farm, have things to do in real life, and can't be asked to go out into the world and farm money. There's an easy way to do it. It does take a little bit of time. You're looking at a week turnaround, maybe a few day turnaround to actually start noticing a difference. But I wanted to give you how I make gold in WoW TBC Classic now that I'm kind of set. First thing I want to show you guys is kind of proof, I guess, that you can make gold this way and how it's worked for me so far. So what I'm going to do first is just switch over to my screen capture, and this is my TSM. TSM is an add-on that helps track everything to do with gold in the auction house and things like that. And as you can see, there's a lot of peaks and valleys here, and I can kind of give you a brief explanation on this. And this is obviously before I'd implemented this strategy. But right about here, you can see quite a bit of gold being made. I get about 7.5k, and then it drops off pretty quickly. That's actually when I bought my first epic mount. That was for my warrior. And then obviously you can see you start making some gold back up, and this is going from towards the end of August right back up to the second week of September, and I'm back up to 5,600 gold, 5,800 gold, and then it drops off again. This was actually me purchasing a bunch of stuff for the investment, and I'll get back to that, what that was. Peaks, valleys, peaks, valleys. This is just me buying and then reselling. And then right about here, you notice I got about 5,900 gold, and it drops off again pretty quickly. That's when I bought my epic mount for my druid, because I figured I'd, since he was herbalism, I'd go and make some money that way. Peaks, valleys as I continue to buy and sell, and then you'll notice right here 6,800 gold again, and it's dropped back down to 1,600, and that was when I bought my epic mount for my Shadow Priest. So through the course of, I would say, about 3 months, I was able to purchase 3 epic mounts. That's 15,000 gold. Plus, continue to support 2 raiding characters. My druid and my priest are both raiders. So that's gear upgrades, that's gems, that's everything needed to make sure that they're performing at peak optimal ability. And so you can notice I'm down here for a little bit, and it just starts collecting gold again real fast. Once you get to about right here, it's pretty much no longer accurate because I've actually transferred my characters off this server. But that is about close to how much gold I have right now, plus a bit more on my other server. So I'm going to show you how I got to this and how you can make gold doing the exact same thing. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to show you are the 6 items that are really your bread and butter for doing this strategy. You can do it with other things, but this seems to work out the best for me. And all this really is flipping the auction house, but flipping the auction house in a very specific manner. So your bread and butter, these 6 items. I don't have a Primal Life at the moment because I just sold all of them, but I'll get another one here pretty quickly. But these are your 6 items: Primal Air, Primal Earth, Primal Fire, Primal Mana, Primal Shadow, and like I said, Primal Life. And so if you go into the auction house, what you're going to do is you're going to look at the prices for these. 11.55 for Primal Air. It's at 100% of its cost. It's actually maybe a good time to sell air, but I'll show you more specifically when you'll know when to sell and when you'll know when to buy. You have your Primal Earth, 2.41. Your Primal Fire, 14.98. So on and so forth, all the prices. And I'm just alt-clicking these items. TSM will automatically search them in the auction house when you do that. So it makes it really quick to get in here, do this, and record your prices. Okay, so what I'm going to show you now is I went in, kind of skipped ahead a little bit, and went ahead and recorded all the prices just so you guys don't see me doing that boring work. And I'm going to go over to my spreadsheet. This does use a spreadsheet, so if you're afraid of Excel or you don't want to bother with it, then I can understand that this may not be the strategy for you. You can use Google Docs, Google Sheets rather, as well. It works just the same, and that way you don't have to pay for a copy of Excel. I'm a certified accountant, so I like to use Excel, but that's all your own preference. Okay, this is the sheet I was talking about. I'm actually going to turn my webcam off so you guys can see this a little bit better. So this is the sheet, and what I've done here is I went ahead and searched all the primal prices, and I've inputted those numbers right here. So you got your Primal Water, Shadow, Mana, Fire, Air, Earth, and Life. So if you guys look here, I have the moats, and the moats are the primal price divided by 10. So 12 divided by 10 is 1.2. 6.94 divided by 10 is 0.69. So that means 69 silver, 40 copper. If you bought 10 of those, you could sell a Primal Eye for 6.94 and come out at a wash. But that's not true, because there's one important thing that a lot of people fail to realize when they're buying and selling things, that the auction house takes a cut upon successful purchase. And so what I've done here is I've actually gone through and found the formula for how much the auction house cut is. It's 0.05, and I've multiplied that for each Primal. So you'll notice that 60 cents is how much it's going to cost if I sell a Primal Water. I'm actually going to get 11 gold, 40 silver, because the auction house takes a cut. And that's something that if you don't remember this part and you don't build this into your spreadsheet, you're actually going to end up losing money. The next thing is the moats themselves. So then you're going to go back into the auction house and you're going to search for the moats. So let's do that real quick. So now I'm back in the auction house, and I got auction house pulled up, and I'm going to get the price of Moat of Air, sorry. So Moat of Air is 1 gold, 10 silver. Moat of Earth is 29 silver. Moat of Fire is 1 gold, 50 silver. And you can see that these percentages, these help. They're kind of a flag, but I don't rely on these. The auction house is very volatile. The prices change all the time. And if you don't scan the auction house regularly, these percentages are going to be kind of skewed, so I don't go by them. They're just kind of a, hey, check this one out. Is it worth buying kind of a thing. So I'm going to go and plug these numbers in real quick, and then I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so I've plugged the prices in. And as you can see here, the moat prices now, this is fresh off the auction house, this price set and this price set. And if you notice, I've colored these two fields in orange as my input fields. So those are the only two columns that I'm messing with. I'm not touching anything else along this side. These purple headers are a way to measure all the metrics and to decide which price is worth buying and which one is not at the time. So once again, I got the moats plugged in here, and then I've got column F that shows the price with the auction house cut. So like I talked about here, the auction house cut for a Primal Water at 12 gold is 60 silver, and so that makes the Primal Water worth 12 gold, 60 silver. If you sell the Primal Water for any less than 12 gold, 60 silver, with the moats costing 1 gold, 20 silver, you're losing money. And so that's why it's very important that you don't do that. And as you can see here, the profit here is negative 60 silver, because the moats and the primals match up perfectly. So if you're like, hey, this is 1. I'll change this. You're like, hey, this is 1.1, and I'll change this to 1.1. And you're like, I can make 10 silver each, and 10 of those is a gold. I'll actually be making a gold. That's not true, because your cut here is going to be 11 gold, 60 silver. You're actually going to be making only 40 silver for selling a primal, not a gold. So you will still make a profit buying at this price, but you're not going to make much. In fact, if I switch this to 1.5, you're thinking, oh, okay, that times 10, right, is 11 gold, 50 silver. I'm going to make 50 silver, but that's not true. You're actually losing 10 silver on the entire purchase. So it's important to have the auction house cut. And then for formulaic purposes, I've added this column F just so I have something to derive my other cells off of, rather than having to derive off another formula. Sometimes Excel doesn't like that. It also increases the load times for Excel, so I just went with the number. That way I can build off of it. Profit formula is pretty easy. It's B2 minus F2. B2 is the price of the primal, and F2 is the price of the primal with the auction house cut. I'm actually going to move this back to 1.2 just so we have accurate numbers here. Now, column H is the until. So basically, if I bought moats at 1.2, I could make profit until the moats hit 1.14. And then you notice if I put 1.14 here, this is going to zero out. So 1.14, and then the profit is 0. So that confirms, just double check your math, that this is the price you want to hit, and you don't want to buy moats any cheaper than that, because you'll actually be losing money. So we're going to switch this back to 1.2 again. Now this column here is a little tricky. It's called Primal Delta. People that aren't math nerds, this might not make a lot of sense, but the delta is basically just a change of price over a given amount of time. And this one is picking up B2 minus J18. So B2, once again, is your Primal Water, and J18 is actually going to be the price of Primal Water averaged out over 7 days. I don't have these columns filled out yet because I just started doing this again a few days ago, But as you can see, I got my dates in here, and we'll get more into that later. But this is the 7-day average for a Primal Water. So Primal Water sells for 12 gold, 38 silver on average. And as you can see, that's made up of prices 12.86, 11.95, 12.45, 12.75. If you and this one 11.89. If you average all these out, look down here at the bottom, it's 12.38, 12.38. So today the Primal Waters are selling for 12 gold. That means that if you had Primal Waters, you could sell them for a 38 silver loss. Obviously that's not doing you any good. You don't want to sell Primal Waters today because on average you're selling them cheaper than what they're actually worth. But if you look at my other ones here, there are some that are in red, and red tells you that the primals are more expensive today than they normally are. And then that is also going to be reflected in the delta. So let's look at Primal Lives. So if you look today, Primal Lives are selling for 6.94 gold. They typically sell for 6.26 gold. So that is a 67 silver profit. Obviously, if you have a bunch of Primal Lives, let's say you have 10, then that's 6 gold, 70 silver. Not a huge markup. Not going to be a huge markup sometimes, especially on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are very busy days. The auction house, obviously because of raiders and things like that, the auction house is going to kind of be all over the place. It's really more of a supply and demand issue than it is the state of the auction house. So it's a good time to sell on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. It's also a good time to buy on Tuesdays because that's just the highest amount of activity. So if you guys know anything about stocks, there's two big things you look at when you want to buy a stock. And this is a slight deviation, but I wanted to kind of give you an idea on how this works. Because basically what I'm doing is I'm trading futures and commodities, whichever you want to call it, but that's what I'm doing. But I'm doing it inside of the WoW auction house. So with futures, when you buy, let's say, gas, you think the price of gas is going to go up in the summer. So what you do is you buy gas at its current price at $2.50 a gallon. Well, in the summer, the price goes up to $3.50 a gallon, and then you sell your future purchase, and then you've made $1 a share, or $1 a future, if you want to call it that way. So this is working the same way. The second thing you look for is volume. And what volume is the amount of that's being purchased and sold at any given time. The reason why I like to do this on Tuesdays is because the volume is so high. There's so many purchases, there's so many sales. The price of the auction house is constantly juggling. People are trying to offload their items. It's a great time to buy moats. And a lot of people, especially towards night after the raids, are trying to buy primals, and it's a great time to sell primals. So buy moats earlier in the day usually, or really, really late at night if you're a degen player. And then also sell your primals during peak hours or right after raid, because that's when people are really looking to purchase this stuff. You can list stuff late at night because sometimes the supply won't be there. A lot of people have purchased it throughout, but there's not a lot of volume at night. I still sell stuff late at night all the time just because the price has gone up, sometimes 2 to 5 gold per primal. And when you start getting flux like that, you can actually, that's when you actually start making a lot of money. And so with phase 3 coming out pretty shortly, Primal Shadows and Primal Lives are going to be worth a lot of gold, especially as people start working on their Shadow Resist sets. So Primal Lives and Primal Shadows are kind of what I've been focusing on, but I'm not limiting myself to those because you can make money on anything. So we're back here on the spreadsheet again, and what we're looking at now is, like I just kind of discussed what the Primal Delta is. That's the change of the primal price over a given amount of time. If that confuses you, don't worry about it. This is not super important. This is just kind of a me thing. Is now a good time to sell Primal Waters? No, not really, because the delta's negative, so that means that I'm selling below the average. I mean, you could just look at this number and look at this number and say, hey, that's 38 silver below average, 38 silver, 38%. Once again, to me, it's just another metric that I like to use. It's not super important. This works the same way for Moat Delta, but Moat Delta I do use, and I use it quite a bit. So let me explain Moat Delta to you. Moat Delta is the price of moats changing over any given time. And as you can see here, it's E2, which is your price of your moat, minus J18 divided by 10. So J18, once again, is our primal price, but then that primal price is being divided by 10. Just like I did up here with this column, you're doing the same thing over here. And what this allows you to see is, obviously it's going off the primal price, but the primal price is derivative of the moat price, or vice versa anyway. And then obviously I have a conditional format here that tells me if it is a negative, that is a good time to buy that moat on average. Not today, because remember, all these prices here are just for today. This is saying on average over seven days, is it a good idea to buy this moat? Because right now this moat of life is 5% less than it typically is during the week. And you can see that here by going to Primal Life 6.26. Right now they're selling for 6.94. That's a difference of 67 silver. And if you divide it by 10 as a percentage, that's a 5% change. That's good. Typically, I try to buy anything that's over 5%. If you get these 2% and things like that, they're really not worth it. You're still making money, but on a grand scheme, you're probably only going to be able to buy 2 or 3 motes, and then you're kind of done. The last column here I have is called Until. And I also have it with H as well. So the Until in column H is for today. The Until in column K is for the week, your 7-day average. So if I buy motes of water at 1.2, like I said, I'm losing money, right? Not worth it. So let's just make this 1. All right. If I buy motes of water at 1 gold apiece, obviously there's a profit of 1.4 gold per primal that I sell. And it even says here that I could continue buying motes, and this is just for today's prices, until I got to 1.14 and still be profitable. So if I put this into 1.14, and we've already done this once, you'll notice that the profit becomes 0 because these two numbers match. And that's telling you, hey, if you see a list, so I'm going to go back to the auction house real quick. If you look at your prices, you can see that there's a range of prices here. 50 silver, 58. Actually, the auction house is updating now, so a lot of them are going away. Wow. And this is what I'm talking about volume, guys. I mean, it's quickly gone up. Someone's went through and kind of purchased everything on Motes of Life. That's fine. I'm not buying anything right now. I'm just showing you guys. But actually, let's go to Motes of Water, since that's more relevant. So you see this price range here. It says 1.19, 1.19, 1.26, 1.28, 1.29. So that goes back until your until column. It says, hey, look, if your until price is 1.29, that means you could buy all of these motes, or let's say it's 1.3 gold. You could buy all of these motes and still profit. You probably want to stop right around here, or here even, just because, you know, we're talking cents on the dollar. But you could buy all of these and it would still be profitable for today's prices. So then column K does the exact same thing. But what column K does is it does it for your 7-day average. So column K is a little bit more important. Look, if you're buying it and you're trying to flip the same day because motes are just stupid cheap and primals are stupid expensive, rarely happens on a big server, by the way. You know, even though primal motes aren't going to make me any profit today, because the waters are cheaper than they normally are, I could actually buy motes of water until I hit 1 gold 18 silver if I wanted to sell at this 7-day average, which is 12.38. So it's kind of a, hey, do you want to go long term or do you want to go short term? And that's what these two different columns are telling you. So column H is, hey, if I buy this today, I can buy it until 1.14, and then I'm at a wash at 1.14, and if I want to go for the 7-day average, because primal waters are cheaper today than they normally are, I could buy it at 1.18 and still come out at a wash at 1.18 for the 7-day average. Because remember, you got to add your auction house cut back in. These two numbers don't line up perfectly if you multiply by 10, but that's because of the auction house cut. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the 7-day average. So 7-day average is important, and this is just diligence and discipline in keeping track of these numbers. So you want to fill them out every day as you get a price. So if you go in and you search the price at 8 o'clock in the morning, and the price of a primal water is, let's say, 12 gold at 8 o'clock in the morning. You go to buy motes at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Those prices are going to be wildly different, and you're actually going to either end up losing or making a lot of money. You're probably actually going to lose a lot of money by doing it that way. And so what I've done is I've taken this sheet one step further. You don't have to do this, but this allows you to make sure that you're sticking with the average. And like I said, TSM does an average for you. It's not because how often you scan, it's not truly up to date. This method kind of keeps it more up to date. And so like I said, I've taken this one step further. You don't have to do this, but this is going to give you your most accurate numbers. Because like I said, if you search for the prices at 8 o'clock in the morning and you search for the prices at 6 o'clock in the evening, they're going to be wildly different. So unless you're scanning every day at the same time, you're not going to have a true idea what the price of that primal is. Remember, towards the later in the afternoon you get, towards the early evening, prices are probably going to go up on everything because of the supply, because of the demand. More so the demand. People aren't farming primals and motes and things like that during raid times. As soon as they come out of raid, they need to update their gear, they need to buy primals, or they need potions, or whatever they're using their primals for. They need that stuff. And so the supply is going to go way down. That's going to drive the price up, and so your prices are just going to be wildly different. So I've gone one step further, and this is why I've created what I'm going to show you next. Alright, so as you can see, we're back on our sheet here. But what I actually want to show you is this tab here called Time of Day. Now, what time of day does, and you can see I've not been super consistent myself. Usually I'm a lot better about this, but I also kind of have a life, so I'm not trying to sit here and scan the auction house every 3 hours. But 3 hours is a pretty good turnaround time or timetable just to get an idea of the price. So we'll just use today's. So what I've done here is I scanned at noon today. And at noon today, these were the prices of the primals. And then I scanned today again at 3 p.m. And these are the price of the primals. So as you can see, once again, the prices have gone up or they've gone down respectively, in part to how the supply and how the demand of the server is going today. And today is Wednesday, so it is a raid day, so the prices are going to be a little bit different than they normally are on the 7-day average. When it gets to 6 p.m., I'll scan again. But what I'm doing is I'm getting the average of all these times, because that's the daily average of how much a primal costs. Like I said, if you go off just noon, and then, you know, I come back in here at 9 and the primal waters have jumped up to 13 gold. Well, the price of the primal for the day is actually averaged out to 12.3, not 11.9, not 13. And so you're using wildly different numbers that are going to be inaccurate. So what I do with these numbers is at the end of the day, or the next day when I go in, I will copy this number here, and I'll go back to my primal calculator and I'll plug this in to this sheet right here. And that gives me my 7-day average, because you're taking the average of the day's prices and then you're adding it in to the average of the week. So now that I've had my prices set, this is all going to change the numbers again just a little bit, but you're getting the most accurate results, you're getting the most accurate numbers. So now, as you can see, the 7-day average is telling me that right now, today would be a great day to invest in the Primal Shadows if I wanted to. There's a 3% negative moat average, and Primal Shadows are selling for 50 silver higher than they normally do. And that's based off of this average here of 14.26 and today's price of 14.75. And it's actually 14.48 now, so actually if we go ahead and update our numbers here, yeah, I can just update it that way. Then actually Primal Shadows have dipped. So if I'd have bought the Primal Shadows before I scanned just now, or before I put in the averages, so if I'd have bought them at 9 o'clock this morning or noon, then I would have had a 50 silver per primal profit. But now I'm only down to about a quarter, a little less than that, per primal that I'd sold. So if you're selling a primal for 14.5 gold, you're only going to be making 20 silver per primal. That's not really worth it. Now, Primal Lives, on the other hand, look to be worth it. Right now, Primal Lives are selling for almost 7 gold, and they average just under 6.5 gold. So you're 56 silver per Primal Life. It would be a good idea to, you know, go ahead and offload some Primals. As these numbers increase, then obviously it's going to make a big more difference. Let's say Primal Lives go up to 9 gold, because they do sometimes. Then you're talking about a profit of 2.62 gold per Primal Life. I mean, that's a huge profit margin for something. And so if you can buy a lot of them and sell them at that price, you're obviously going to make some gold. So there's a lot of things you can do with this sheet. And I, just as a numbers guy, as an accountant, I like to constantly find out different averages, different summaries. And so you notice that there's a lot more to this sheet than just the prices of the primals, the prices of the moats, and the auction house cut. But this is the way that I make money, and this is super, super easy for me. Once you get the formula set up, and what I'll actually do is I'll go ahead and copy this over and put it in a Google Docs, and I'll put it in the description, and then that way you guys have all the formulas, and you can kind of make the sheet however you want it, color code it however you want it, keep track of whatever metrics you want. But what this will allow you to do is make gold by scanning the auction house. It'll probably take you, I would say, 10 minutes, if that, to update your sheet. If you have the time to do it, you know, you're playing on another character, you're switching characters, and it doesn't have to be true to the time. If you log in at 3:30 instead of 3, go ahead and mark it down as 3. You're still getting an idea of the price around that time, and that's why I've done those 3-hour gaps, and so you can kind of be close to the time, but you don't have to be spot on to it. But because they're different times throughout the day, you're getting the best idea of what the price, how it fluctuates throughout the day, and that's very important. So, and there's one more thing I can show you on this sheet if you guys want. This isn't too important, But what I've done here is I've actually kept a record of how many primals I have, and then we're looking at this is just another average number. It's the primals that I have on hand multiplied by their price. And so if I have 31 primal waters, that means right now I'm holding on to 370 gold worth of primal waters. And then I also keep track of the motes as well. And then these two are the cumulative prices. And so this is how much money that I have just holding on just primals themselves. So if I were to liquidate all my primals at the current price, this is how much gold I could walk away from right now, or how much gold I'd walk away with right now. And so that kind of tells you, if you're starting to get low or you're starting to freak out about how much gold you have available, you can go ahead and liquidate some of your primals, and then you have that much money right there. And so it's not as big a concern or a risk. So, as I've stated, this does take a little bit of effort on the initial setup, but I'm going to give you guys the spreadsheet for free anyway. And all I ask, if the spreadsheet works for you or you guys find that this makes gold, please give the video a like and give it a subscription as well. I'm constantly making new videos explaining things. If you guys have a question, I've been playing this game for 15 years, so there's a lot of information I have that could be helpful to you. But like I said, this is how I've made money. As I showed you at the beginning of the video, my TSM averages and how many epic mounts I've bought. I've done all of that without farming. So you can go in, you can scan for 10 minutes, you can record your prices. If there's nothing to buy or sell at the moment, you don't have to buy or sell at the moment. If you want to buy 4 motes of life and then that's pretty much all that's worth it at the time, that's fine. The biggest thing I would do is when you first log in for the day and right before you log off at night, I would scan the auction house and search for motes and search for primals. Typically towards the beginning of the day and the end of the day are when the prices are going to have changed the most. They're going to have the biggest gap from where their average is. That's really where you can buy motes and sell primals to make some good cash. Looking at the sheet one last time, you can see that we're really trading silver for the most part and small amounts of it, but that's just because right now the flux is pretty shallow. Like I said, primal lives do jump up quite a bit in price, so do primal shadows, and I expect primal shadows to probably start going for close to 20 gold, if not higher, right when phase 3 gets launched, because people are going to need them for their shadow resist sets. A lot of people have started already purchasing these items because they're getting prepared for phase 3, but a lot of people wait till the very last minute to get prepared for phase 3. So you guys can go ahead and buy this stuff now. Start especially with lives and shadows. Primal manas also fluctuate in price quite a bit, so there's a lot you can do there. But this is just a tool. Like I said, if you're not a numbers guy or if you don't know how to work Excel or Google Docs, this may not work for you. But this is how I've made all of my gold. This is how I've bought my epic mounts. This is how I've geared a Shadow Priest who's using destruction potions every single raid, 15 destruction potions every single raid. A Boomkin who uses or destruction potions every single raid. How I buy dark runes, which have always been expensive. So this gives you a tool amongst something else you might already have, or in addition to your professions, to make money with a minimum amount of effort. And this is more, like I said, for raid loggers like me. I have a shaman that I'm leveling. Right now I'm buying boost with him. I'm getting boosted through SFK, I'm getting boosted through Scarlet Monastery, and so I'm having to pay for those boosts as well, and this is keeping supplementary income while I'm just straight up spending money on my alt. So like I said, if this works for you, if you guys like the sheet, you guys like the information, please give the video a like, because I'm definitely trying to get more people to see these videos so that way they have a better explanation of WoW, a better understanding of WoW, and they can also make money and continue to enjoy the game and continue to play all the way to the last of the expansion for TBC, because that's where I'll be. I quit TBC during Brutalis, the original time, and I came back Wrath of the Lich King like a month after it launched, and so I'm staying this time until Sunwell is cleared, because I want to see the end-game content. I want to be one of the people that finally kills the last boss in TBC. So thanks, and have a good day.